Okay. So as you guys can see, I'm writing some notes on the board. Those of you who are only here for today, I'm not going to give you a book. All right. So if you want to take notes, you can. If you want to sit, and just listen and benefit, then you can. But the books are reserved for the high schoolers. Okay. So if you want to sit and listen, you're more than willing. If you want to participate, you're more than willing. Okay? All right. So, our class today is called The Obstacles in the Path of Servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're going to just in 1 second, we'll break down the meaning of the title, and then we'll go through the introduction of the book. Okay. So the Arabic meaning of the class is al-awaiq fi tariq al-ubudiyya, obstacles in the path of servitude. So let's just break down the title real quick, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what this class entails. This is a 12-week course. 12-week course for high schoolers. If you open to the front page, the front cover of the book, Obstacles in the Path of Servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is an obstacle? What is an obstacle? We see a title, then we want to begin breaking the title down, dissecting the title so that we can have a general understanding of what this course is about. What is an obstacle? Don't you all speak at once. What is an obstacle? A difficulty. Okay. Anyone else? What is an obstacle? Someone place an obstacle in front of you. What is an obstacle? He said a difficulty. Any other synonyms that you can think of that goes along with obstacle? Come on, you guys are high schoolers now. You're middle schoolers, but we've given you a pass today to act like high schoolers. What's an obstacle?
Maybe like it can be something that since it's like in the path, maybe something that can some stuff you can do in order to gain something.
Something that you can do? Nope. What is an obstacle?
Something that's keeping you from doing something.
Something that's keeping you from doing something. Very good. He said a difficulty, something that is keeping you from doing something. What else? Anyone else? Yes. Now the wheels are spinning. Go ahead.
Something that stands in your way.
Something that stands in your way. Good. Great. You're getting warmer.
A conflict in your path.
A conflict in your path. We're hot now. We're sizzling. A conflict, a difficulty, something in your path that stops you. What did you say?
Something that stands in your way.
Something that's standing in your way, a hindrance, right? Something that's preventing you. All right, so when we say obstacles in the path, all right, something that is stopping you, something that is in your way, something that is preventing you in the path of servitude. The path, we already know what a path is, a road that is taking you to your destination, taking you to your journey. That's what a path represents. A path represents what? A road that is taking you to your journey, to your destination. All right? So we're talking about obstacles, things that in your way, that blocks your journey, prevents you from your journey, your path to servitude. What is servitude? What does that mean? What is servitude?
Maybe guidance?
Guidance? No. Servitude. You can hear the word serve in there, right? It's a derivative. Servitude. What does the word servitude mean?
Like serving someone.
Serving someone. What else? Servitude.
I guess aiding, helping, maybe.
So what does it mean to serve someone? That means that you're a what? When you serve someone, that makes you a what?
A servant.
A servant. Okay, so what's another word for being a servant?
Slave.
Slave. Right? Slave. Right? Obstacles in the path or along your journey to being a slave or a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You guys get it now? Does the title make sense now? Obstacles, things that are in your path that stop you from being a servant of Allah. That prevents you from being a servant of Allah. That prevents you from serving Allah. You guys follow me? You got it now?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what this course is about. We're talking about obstacles, things, difficulties, conflicts that are in your way, in your path, to being a better servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You get it? That's what this course is about. And during this course, we're going to cover 10 things. 10 things that stop you from being a better servant or slave to God. All right? That means that you are a slave to God and a slave to no one else. You follow me? You're a slave to God, you're a servant of God, and to no one else. But along your journey to becoming a good slave to God, there are going to be some obstacles in your path that are going to try to pull you away from being a servant to God and being a servant to them. You follow me? And as you can see in your table of contents, there are actually 10 of these things. All right? One is shaitan at the top of the list. At the top of that list, shaitan is the first one that tries to stop you or prevent you, all right, from being a servant to God. He does not want that to happen. All right, and as we move along, there will be tons of other things, and you will encounter these things in your life. Maybe not now, but 10 years from now. You guys are how old? The high schoolers are 16, 15, 17, 18, right? They are already being confronted with these things. You guys, middle schoolers, 10, 11, 12 years old, right? You have yet to experience some of these things, but proper preparation prevents poor performance. All right? The 5 P's of success. We talked about that before. Proper preparation. Wa alaikum salam.
I can take my kids.
Okay, middle schoolers, you're free. We gave them a pass today to be high schoolers, but now you're back to being middle schoolers.
Thank you. Oh, man.
Can you keep the pass? Sure. Act like a high schooler. I don't think anybody would find fault with that.
So it's just us three again.
All right. So close the door. Close the door. Close the door.
Can we write
You can write in it. Yes, it's your book. All right, so we're talking about obstacles in the path of servitude. So as you open the first page, there's a dua on page number 4. There's a dua at the beginning of the book. That dua says, Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman nafi'an wa rizqan tayyiban wa rizqan wasi'an wa amalan mutaqabbala. Oh Allah, I ask you for beneficial knowledge, vast provision, and deeds that are acceptable. Deeds that are acceptable. These are three things that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for. We should always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for. We ask Allah for beneficial knowledge, knowledge that will be beneficial to us, knowledge that will allow us to do righteous actions. All right? Beneficial knowledge, ilmin nafi'an, is knowledge that you act upon. Information is just information until you act upon it. Once you act upon information, it becomes knowledge. Follow me. Information is just information. You store it in your subconscious, you store it in your mind, and it does absolutely nothing. It sits there. When you act upon that knowledge, then it becomes beneficial. If you learn, and you're just storing up information and you're not using it, then it's not beneficial. You follow me? It's not beneficial knowledge. Beneficial knowledge is when you store it and then you act upon it, then it becomes beneficial to you. All right? Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman nafi'an. Oh Allah, I ask you for beneficial knowledge. Wa rizqan wasi'an. And I ask you for provision or sustenance that is vast, meaning that you're asking Allah for provision that does not just come to you in one way, right? Minus the others. But you asking Allah for provision that comes to you from, or sustenance that comes to you from many different angles. All right? Physical sustenance, spiritual sustenance, mental sustenance, psychological sustenance. Not just sustenance or food for the stomach, but food for the soul, food for the mind. All right? And then amalan mutaqabbala, and deeds that are accepted. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he said, Ya laytani raka'atain maqbulatain. I wish I knew that I had 2 raka'ahs that Allah would accept from me. That what is the sense in doing good deeds if you don't know whether or not Allah is going to accept that from you? It leaves you in a state of fear, not knowing if Allah is going to accept anything from you. But to know, as Abu Bakr said, I wish I knew that I had 2 raka'ah that I prayed in my life that I knew for surety that Allah would accept those 2 raka'ahs. So we ask Allah for amalan mutaqabbala. All right, so let's turn to the following page. All praises for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We praise Him, we seek His assistance, His forgiveness. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon His final prophet and messenger Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and upon his family and companions. Rhoda Institute, in conjunction with Iqra Institute, would like to welcome you to a 12-week course which concentrates on purification of the soul. This course will focus on 10 obstacles in the path of servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The purpose of this course is to give students an in-depth look into the challenges facing our spiritual journey to becoming better servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The purpose of our creation in this life is to align every facet, every aspect of our existence with the divine expectations outlined for us in the Quran and demonstrated in the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You hear that? The whole entire purpose of our lives, our entire creation, the purpose of our entire creation is to align every aspect of our lives, of our existence, with the divine expectations, what Allah expects from us, right? In the Quran and demonstrated in the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, more than just worship. But worship, yes, to worship Him. But what does worship entail? Worship is very comprehensive. All right? Most of the challenges that we face in our lives, in our attempt to fulfill this objective, to being better servants of Allah, are largely connected to our perceptions. Most of the challenges that we face as human beings in our attempt to fulfill this obligation are largely connected to our perceptions, which have been shaped by our inability to process the obstacles that we allow to stifle the growth and development of our souls. All right? Purification of the soul is a common theme, echoed throughout the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, in order that the believer learns to develop a more intimate relationship with the acts of worship aimed at perfecting his servitude to Allah. All right? Purification of the soul is a theme that you find echoed all throughout the Quran and the Sunnah. Allah talks about the soul. Allah talks about purification of the soul. The Prophet ﷺ talked about purification of the soul. So you'll find this theme echoed all throughout the Quran and the Sunnah in order that the believer learns to develop a more intimate relationship with the acts of worship that are aimed at perfecting his servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All worship does, the only thing that worship does is it gives you a certain set of acts to do by which you can carry out your spirituality, your belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People believe in God. People believe in Allah, but they don't know how to express that belief in God in a way that is pleasing to God. Some people express their belief in God in ways that seem very weird, in ways that seem very unorthodox. Right? Like what? What are some things that people do to express their belief in God, but when you look at it, you're saying to yourself, there's no way that God authorized that? Like what? Terrorism. Very good. Some people carry out acts of terrorism in the name of God, believing that by doing this deed, they are somehow expressing their faith in God. Absolutely. And there's no way that God would authorize something like that. What else? What are some other acts that people do that demonstrate, that they believe demonstrates their faith in God, but actually probably pushes them further away from God? Anyone else can think of something? Okay, we'll just stick with the example that you gave. Very good example. All right, so worship, all worship does, and that's fasting, making salat, fasting, paying zakat, making hajj, right? Smiling at your brother, getting married, raising your children. All of these are acts of worship. And all of these acts of worship are given to us as a way to demonstrate and express our faith in God. When you look at a lot of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, they usually begin or they usually entail some type of connection to God. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Man kana yu'minu billahi wal yawmil akhir, falyukrim dayfahu." That whoever believes in Allah and the last day, then let him honor his guests. You see how that is connected to belief in Allah? Meaning honoring your guests is an act of worship that you can use to express your faith in God. لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. None of you truly believe until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. So loving for your brother what you love for yourself is an act of worship that is given to you to demonstrate your faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the acts of worship that are given to us in our religion, and it doesn't have to just be fasting or praying, it can be deeper than that, all right, are rituals that are given to us to express and to demonstrate how much we actually believe in God. You follow me? All right, so during this 12-week course, students will learn to identify and address some of the challenges that hinder this quest using a combination of Quranic texts and prophetic traditions, hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, as well as fiqh, jurisprudence, Islamic jurisprudence. Students will learn how to problem solve. You guys will learn how to problem solve. As for teenagers, this is your biggest challenge, especially with boys, because your frontal lobe, the part of your brain that you use to make decisions, has not fully developed yet. This is why many of you guys are impulsive. You make very impulsive decisions without thinking about what you're doing, because the ability to process and make sound decisions, the frontal lobe of your brain has not finished developing. This is why teenagers do some of the weirdest, dumbest stuff.
I'm not a teenager.
I want you guys to understand that. It's not that teenagers are dumb. It's just that you guys are making decisions at a time in your life when your ability to process has not fully developed. So quite naturally, if a person is going to make decisions at this particular point in their lives, is going to seem very weird to an adult, someone like myself, or an adult whose brain has fully developed. Even myself, when I look at things that I did at 16, 17 years old, crazy. I would never do any of those things at this particular point in my life, because my brain has finished developing from that particular point in my life, and it makes me now look back at the things that I did as if I was insane. I was crazy. Right? And all you have to do is take a look on Instagram and take a look at all of the obnoxious, weird, stupid things that you see young kids doing. Most of the time, boys. You find girls do some dumb things, but most of the time it's boys. Right? Very important. All right? So students will learn how to problem solve some of the most common internal and external conflicts while developing a deeper and more comprehensive understanding of the elements that tend to infringe on their connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ibn al-Qayyim, that great scholar of Islam, he said, وَضُعُ الشَّيْءِ فِي مَكَانٍ مَشْرُوطٌ بِتَفْرِيقِهِ مِنْ ضِدِّهِ. Ibn al-Qayyim, very famous scholar in Islam, he said, putting something in a place is conditional upon it being void of its opposite. What does that mean? The quote is right there in your book. At the last paragraph, Ibn al-Qayyim said, putting something in a place is conditional upon it being void of its opposite. What does that mean? What does that quote mean, Zubair? Putting something in a place is conditional upon it being void of its opposite. What does that mean? What does that mean?
Like, you can't have, like, if you want to do something, like, you can't have, like, a part of you, like, that wants to do something, but, like...
You don't have to use you. Just use anything.
Self-control.
Huh?
Having self-control.
What do you mean? Explain. Putting something in a place is conditional, meaning you cannot do it unless that thing is absent of its opposite.
So, if, for example, in like your actions, you can't like do your homework if you're watching TV.
TV, the opposite of homework?
I mean, like, you can't do something productive if you're doing something like spending time on your phone. Like.
You can't do something productive if you are doing something unproductive. Okay, that's close.
I know what he means, I just...
You don't know how to put it in words.
I know what he means, though.
Putting something in a place cannot happen unless that place that you're trying to put it in has to be absent of its opposite. The opposite of the thing that you're trying to put there cannot be there. It has to be removed in order for you to put that thing there. So, I'll give you an example. It's like water and oil. Can water and oil mix? No. So if you're trying to put water in something, right? You're trying to pour water in a cup. Let's say you have a half a cup filled with oil. Half a cup of oil. And then you try to pour water into that cup. Will the water occupy that entire cup? No. Because the opposite of water is there, which is oil. So in order for the water to be in the cup, what has to be removed? The oil. Follow me. So let's use another example. Let's say your heart is filled with hatred. Hate, you run into people all the time. They just hateful people, bitter, upset all the time, angry all the time, bitter, upset at the world, at people, at their circumstances, at their lives, everything. In order for them to be able to put love in their heart, they have to do what? They have to remove the hatred. You follow me? So Ibn al-Qayyim's statement, وَضُعُ الشَّيْءِ فِي مَكَانٍ مَشْرُوطٌ بِتَفْرِيقِهِ مِنْ ضِدِّهِ, that putting something in a place is conditional upon it being void of its opposite. Meaning, if you are going to be a good servant of God, good servant of Allah, then you have to remove the obstacles that prevent you from being a good servant of Allah. You follow me? If you're going to be a good Muslim, you're going to be a good servant of Allah, then your heart and your path has to be, you have to remove the things from your path that is going to stop you from being a good servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can't allow those things to remain there because you're never going to achieve greatness. You're always going to be mediocre. You're always going to be mediocre because the things that are preventing you from being great are in your path. And you have to remove those things from your path so that you can achieve greatness. You follow me? All right? So putting something in a place is conditional upon it being void of its opposite. Worship can be one of the most spiritually therapeutic methods of manifesting our servitude to Allah while bringing joy and tranquility to the soul tormented by its distance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this can only be achieved once we identify and subsequently remove all of the obstacles that hinder this process. Worship can be a very beautiful thing for the believer. It's something called halawatul iman. You taste the sweetness of faith, right? Which is expressed through the acts of worship that we have in our religion. All right, all of the religious rituals that we have, praying, fasting, giving zakat, giving charity, making hajj, these are all rituals that anyone can do. Anyone can do these things. But these things are given to you as a way for you to express and demonstrate your faith in your love of God, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People say all the time, I don't believe in religion. I believe in God. But how do you express your faith in God except through the practices that have been given to you in the religion? You understand? Anybody can be spiritual. Anyone can say, I believe in a higher power. I believe in God. I believe in something greater than myself. Anyone can say that. But it's just abstract. It's abstract faith. It doesn't have anything tangible to make it realistic. When you put in religious practices like prayer, fasting, things like this, these things animate your faith. They bring your faith to life. When you say you believe, it's just a faith. It's just a belief that's stored somewhere and it has no way to manifest itself. You follow me? You just say, I believe in God. Okay, how is that belief or faith in God manifest? It manifests itself through the rituals that are given to us in the religion. All right? All right, so worship can be one of the most spiritually therapeutic methods of manifesting our servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while bringing joy and tranquility to the soul that is tormented. The further and further we go from Allah, further and further that we distance ourselves from God, the more tormented our soul becomes. All you got to do is take a look at a person who has no connection to God whatsoever, tormented, even if they have everything that the world can offer. All of its opulence, all of the beauty in the world is not going to fill that void, right? And you think about how many rich people commit suicide. And you would say to yourself, why would a rich person commit suicide? They have everything that a person could ask for. They have everything that the world could offer. And yet they still take it upon themselves to take their lives. Their lives are tormented. Their soul is tormented because it has no connection to anything other than itself. Allah created our souls and put it in our bodies for us to have this human experience that we're having right now. But the soul, although the physical body is having a physical experience, the soul still needs to have a deeper and more meaningful connection to God. You understand? So we have to remove these obstacles. All right, so if you turn to the next page, the contents will give you the introduction, which we're going to cover now, inshallah. And we'll only be able to get through the introduction today. And then starting next week, inshallah ta'ala, we'll start with the first obstacle, which is shaitan. Shaitan is our biggest obstacle, our first and biggest obstacle in becoming better servants to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Obstacle number 2 is our desires. Our lowly desires, our carnal desires, our impulses stop us from being better servants to Allah. Number 3, our frustration with the calamities and trials of life. Number 4, overestimating our spiritual capacity. Sometimes we overestimate ourselves, not realizing that Shaitan never sleeps. Realizing that the obstacles that are waiting for you never take a rest. Number 5, keeping bad company. Being around negative people, being around negative energy can also stop you from being a better servant to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 6, the trials and tests that Allah give us. Sometimes we allow the trials and tests that Allah gives us to break us instead of to build us. And we crumble under the pressure of the trials and tribulations that God gives us. Number 7, sin and disobedience. Being disobedient to Allah can be the greatest obstacle in our path to becoming better servants. Number 8, bad character. Being an overall bad person and having a display of bad personality, a bad character, can also hinder you, all right, in your quest to becoming a better servant of Allah. Number 9, a lack of gratitude, right? A lack of being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the things that He has given you. And number 10, a lack of sincerity. At the root of all dysfunction, is a lack of sincerity. You point me in the direction of any dysfunction in this world, and I'll show you how deep within that dysfunction there's a lack of sincerity. Alright, so let's go to the introduction, inshallah ta'ala. I put the first ayat that it begins with. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Al-Dhariyat, ayat number 56, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, that I have not created the human being and mankind. I have not created the human being and mankind except for worship. I have not created the human being and mankind except for worship. All right? This shows us that our journey in life begins with servitude. Our journey in life begins with being a servant. The moment we exit the wombs of our mothers, we come into this world with an expectation that we are going to be servants of God. That's the expectation. From the very beginning, the expectation is that you are put into this world with the purpose, with the aim of being a servant of God. That's it. Allah says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I did not create وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ. I did not create the jinn, all right, nor the human being, except to worship me. Our journey in life starts with servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You follow me? That's how our life started off. Jesus, may peace and blessings be upon him, was one of the 3 people who spoke in infancy. This is one of the miracles, the great miracles of Jesus in the Quran, is that he spoke in his infancy, when he was a kid, when he was a baby, infant. All right, and he spoke to defend his mother. The first words that came out of the mouth of Jesus was what? When Maryam brought the baby to her people, and they said to Maryam, how could you do this? How could you bring a child into the world, and your father wasn't known to be, an evil person, nor was your mother? How could you do this? And she pointed to the child. فَأَشَارَتْ إِلَيْهِ. She pointed to the kid. And they said, قَالُوا كَيْفَ نُكَلِّمُ مَنْ كَانَ فِي الْمَهْدِ صَبِيًّا. How can we speak to a child that is in the cradle? And then Allah caused Jesus to speak as an infant. As a baby. And the first words that came out of Jesus' mouth was, قَالَ إِنِّي عَبْدُ اللَّهِ. I am the servant of Allah. I am the servant of God. That was his first words as an infant. So Jesus, as an infant, is uttering basically the purpose of our entire existence as an infant. He uttered it out of his mouth. قَالَ إِنِّي عَبْدُ اللَّهِ آتَانِيَ الْكِتَابَ وَجَعَلَنِي نَبِيًّا. I am the servant of God. That's the first thing that he uttered out of his mouth. And this within itself refutes the claims of those who believe that Jesus is God or the Son of God. His first words were, I am the servant of God. He gave me a book and made me a prophet. وَجَعَلَنِي مُبَارَكًا أينما كنت وأوصاني بالصلاة والزكاة ما دمت حيا. He said, and he made me blessed. وجعلني مباركا. He made me blessed. أينما كنت, no matter where I go, I am blessed. And he enjoined upon me prayer and charity as long as I'm alive. Yes.
So if the Christians knew that, why do they still believe that he's a God?
If Christians know this, then why do they still believe that he is the Son of God? Well, this particular story of Jesus is not actually in the Bible. There's no mention in the Bible that Jesus spoke in the cradle and the first words he uttered was, I am the servant of God. However, there are verses in the Bible where Jesus said that I am the Son of God. I am the Son of man, not the Son of God. Clearly, Jesus said that I am the Son of man. All right. Clearly, when Jesus was supposedly on the cross, he said, oh Lord, oh my Lord, why hast thou forsaken me? He's calling on God, right? There's clearly verses in the Bible where Jesus betook himself to the hill and fell prostrate on his face, just like we pray. So why, after all of these evidences in the Bible that clearly points to the fact that Jesus was worshiping someone else other than himself, because if we said Jesus is God, then did Jesus worship himself? No, he didn't. He worshiped, obviously, someone greater than himself. So why do Christians still believe that Jesus is the Son of God? That, my dear son, is a lecture all within itself. The shorter end of that story is that, the shorter version of that story is that some people just refuse to think outside the box. Some people refuse to use critical analyzation as God has intended for our brains to do. To critically think and analyze what is in front of us.
So is that their obstacle?
Is that their obstacle? One of many obstacles. Absolutely. Absolutely. The same thing with many of the pagan Arabs. When the Prophet ﷺ came to them and said, why are you worshiping many gods when you can just worship one God? They couldn't fathom that. They couldn't think outside of that box. People put themselves in a box and begin to believe that this is the way that it is, and there's no other way to think about this. There's no other way to see this. This is the only way to view this issue. All right? And Allah says in the Quran, are you going to follow your forefathers even though your forefathers didn't have any intellect, they didn't have any sense? If you look at the conversation between Ibrahim and his father, Prophet Abraham and his father, he said to his father, Ya abati, inni qad ja'ani min al-ilmi ma lam yatika fattabi'ni ahdika siratan sawiyya. Oh my father, knowledge has come to me that didn't come to you, meaning I know more about God than you do. Knowledge has come to me that did not come to you. Follow me and I will guide you to the straight path. Ya abati la ta'budu shaitan. Oh my father, don't worship shaitan. He said to his father, Ya abati, lima ta'budu ma la yasma'u wa la yubsiru wa la yukni anka shay'a. Oh my father, why do you worship that which cannot see, cannot hear, and cannot benefit you anything? With all of these evidences that he's bringing his father, what does his father say? قال أراغب أنت عن آلهتي يا إبراهيم. He said to his son, Ibrahim, are you turning away from our idols? Are you deviating from the path that I put you on? And then he threatened his son. You understand? He could not think outside of that box. Some people put themselves in a box. Psychologically, you put yourself in a box because you are afraid to think beyond the box that you put yourself in. You are afraid. All right, as the very famous quote of Marianne Williamson, where she said that our greatest fear is not that we are incompetent. Our greatest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our greatest fear is what? That we are powerful beyond measure. We are powerful, but you're afraid to think outside of that box. You put yourself in a box. You tell yourself, I'm inadequate. You tell yourself, this is all there is to life. There's nothing more than that. This is what we tell ourselves, our perceptions. Because we are too afraid to think beyond the box that we put ourselves in, or the box that other people have put us in. Some people put us in a box, and they expect us to stay there. And we live up to the expectations of other people, instead of thinking beyond that box, despite the expectations that other people have of us. So yeah, great discussion. All right. So our journey starts or begins with servitude. This is the main reason why Allah created us. It's the first thing that came out of Jesus' mouth when he affirmed to his people that indeed I am the servant of God. As a baby, he uttered the first words, and there's no coincidence in that. That as a baby, you would think that the first words to come out of a baby's mouth, right,
Mom or dad.
would have been mom or dad. Very good. You're smart. See? You're acting like a high schooler, right? The first thing to come out of the baby's mouth, if Allah gave it permission to talk, would have probably been mom or dad. Today, our children, the moment they learn how to talk, the first words that come out of their mouths is mommy, daddy, right? However, Jesus, on the other hand, since Allah gave him the ability to talk as an infant, the first words that came out of his mouth was to affirm the very purpose of our existence. Qala inni abdullah. That indeed I am a slave of Allah, of God. From infancy, you belong to God. You don't belong to anyone else. You understand that? Keep that in mind, because as we move along, every obstacle that I mention is designed to pull you away from that belief that you belong to God. Everything. And your fight, your main fight, our fight as conscious Muslims, all right, not just regular Muslims, conscious Muslims, Muslims who have the ability to use this. Our biggest struggle, our biggest challenge in life as a conscious Muslim is to make sure that you remain believing that you only belong to Allah. You don't belong to anyone else. I don't belong to my job. I don't belong to my spouse. I don't belong to my children. I don't belong to, the materialistic world that I live in. I don't belong to anyone or anything except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's your biggest challenge. Everyone and everything that you come in contact in this world, as I put on the board, codependency is new shirk. Codependency is the new shirk. What does that mean? What is codependency?
Depending on more than one thing.
Depending on more than one thing. Depending on something or someone else. What does it mean? Codependency is the new shirk. What is shirk?
Believing in anything else other than Allah.
Believing or worshiping anything other than Allah. Worshiping anything other than Allah. So what does that mean? Codependency is the new shirk. What does that mean?
Your dependency causes you to worship something else other than Allah, and not indirect ways.
Very good. Being codependent on someone or something other than Allah causes you to worship that thing. People will try to make you feel like you're nothing without them. Jobs will try to make you feel like if you quit this job, you're never going to find another job that's going to pay you what I'm going to pay you. So you now become codependent on that thing. Friends, they try to make you feel like if I leave out of your life, you're going to be nothing, right? Attachments, codependency. Without my cell phone, I'm nothing, right? You become codependent on your cell phone, codependent on your car, codependent. All you want to see how deep codependency is? Remove something from someone that they believe they can't survive without, and look at what they become. You want to see how deep codependency is? Remove something from someone that they believe they cannot live without. We tell people in our lives, I can't live without you, right? The woman, you don't want her to leave. You say, don't leave me. I can't live without you, right?
You can always remarry.
You can always remarry. I wish it was that simple. Bless you. Your innocent mind. Allah bless you. I wish it was that simple. But codependency, you want to see how deep codependency takes a person? Remove something or someone from the life of a person who believes they cannot exist without that thing, and look at what happens to that person. What happens to that person is equivalent to what happens to a person who is a mushrik, who is an idolater. Try removing or taking an idol away from the idol worshippers of Quraysh. And they would believe that God does not even exist. How am I going to get to God without this idol? Similar to what Christians do with Jesus. How in the world am I going to get to God without Jesus? Yeah, very deep, man. Codependency is the new shirk. So the first ayat, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I did not create the jinn and the human being except for worship, except to worship me. This verse identifies the purpose of our creation, which is to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala within the context of the word ibadah. All right? As defined by the legislation of Islam. The great Islamic scholar, Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, defined worship as a comprehensive term that comprises of everything that Allah loves and is pleased with from statements and actions, internal and external. That is the definition of ibadah. So make sure you highlight that. If guys, when you come to class, you should bring a highlighter with you so that you can highlight certain sentences that are very important, because you guys will be given a midterm and you will be given a final exam.
Midterm?
A midterm. That means 6 weeks. If this is a 12-week course, 6 weeks into the course, you will be given a midterm exam. I have to know that the information that I'm giving to you, you're storing it and you're processing it and you're understanding it and you're digesting it. And the only way for me to find that out is to give you an exam.
Can we make mine a little bit?
Can you use notes? Yeah, sure. That's what the book is for. You can write your notes in your book.
I'm talking about on the exam.
On the exam, we'll see. Maybe.
Alright, where is that joint at that you said to highlight?
All right, the definition of the word ibadah. If Allah says that He did not create us except to worship Him, then now we need to define what is worship. What is worship? Is worship just prayer? Salat? No, it's deeper than that. More comprehensive than that. So Ibn Taymiyyah, he defined the word worship. Highlight that. It's a comprehensive term. Worship is a comprehensive term. Ismun jami'un لكل ما يحبه الله ويرضاه من أقوال وأفعال ظاهرة وباطنة. He said that worship is a comprehensive term that comprises of everything that Allah loves and is pleased with from statements and actions, internal, meaning actions of the heart, and external, actions of the limbs. Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah mentions a sacred tradition, Hadith al-Qudsi. Alright, these are the words of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that were given directly to him from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hadith al-Qudsi. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ibn Adam, O child of Adam, Inni khalaqtuka li nafsi. I created you for me. You belong to God. Understand? When you understand this concept, wallahi, I kid you not. When you understand this concept that I belong to God and God only, right? You begin to now, as a running back does when he breaks through the crowd, breaking away from anyone that tries to grab him, pushing everyone off, right? Football players stiff arms this person, stiff arms that person, get off of me, get off of me, moving everybody off of you so you can run down the field by yourself, untouched. So you can travel along your path untouched, unscathed, not being clutched by anyone or anything trying to grab you. The entire world is designed to grab and pull and tug on you, right? Umar radiallahu anhu, he asked Hudhayfa, what is taqwa? And Hudhayfa asked Umar, don't you know what taqwa is? And Umar said, I want to see what you have to say about it. All right? Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, he asked Hudhayfa, what is taqwa? And Hudhayfa said, don't you know what taqwa is? Umar said, I want to hear what you have to say about it. Hudhayfa said, Hal salakta tariqan that shok. Have you ever walked down a path that had bushes with thorns on it? And Umar said, yes. And Hudhayfa asked Umar, well, what did you do? He says, Shamartu thobi. I pulled my thobe close so I wouldn't get snagged by one of the thorns. And Hudayfa said, فَذَلِكَ taqwa. That is taqwa. That is being conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not being snagged by any of the thorns that is on your journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The path that is on your way to Allah is filled with a lot of thorns. And if you are not careful, you're going to get snagged by one of these thorns. You understand? Putting holes in your armor. Understand what I'm saying to you. That on your journey to being a better servant of Allah, you're going to, on this path, encounter bushes that have thorns on them. And you have to pull your thobe close so you don't get snagged. There are going to be tons of things that are going to pull you away from understanding that you belong to God. You don't belong to anyone else. Ibn Qayyim, he said that the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ibn Adam, khalaqtuka li nafsi. O child of Adam, I created you for me. You belong to God. That's it. Wa khalaqtu kulla shay'in laka. And I created everything else for you. Everything in the world, Allah created for your benefit. The trees, where you get your oxygen. Animals, where you get your food, your protein. Fruits and vegetables, where you get all of your vitamin A, B, C, and D. All right. The sun, where you get your vitamin D. Right. The moon, right. The stars, where you get your direction, where you get your understanding of life. All of these things have been given to us for our benefit. The ocean, been given to us for us to travel, to fish and get, animals, or get food from the ocean. Right. Very simple. Go out to any ocean. Stick a rod in the water, pull out a fish. You don't have to pay anybody for it. It's yours. Eat it. Bismillah, and eat it. All of these things have been given to you for your benefit. He said, O child of Adam, I created you for me, and I created everything for you. He said, فَبِحَقِّ عَلَيْكَ أَنْ لَا تَشْتَغِلْ بِمَا خَلَقْتُهُ لَكَ أَمَّنْ خَلَقْتُكَ لَهُ. So based upon my right over you, don't preoccupy yourselves with the things that I have created for you instead of the one whom I created you for. Don't preoccupy yourself with the things Allah created. The devices that we have, the technology that has given us devices like cell phones, have given us devices like video game consoles, right? All of this technology that we have, but we allow these things to distract us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, I created you for me, and I created everything else for you. So don't let the things that I created for you preoccupy you from the one whom I created you for, who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You understand? Yeah. All right, so this is important to understand in this day and time because codependency is the new idolatry. Codependency is the new idolatry. Most of the challenges we are confronted with in our personal lives revolve around people and things who've dedicated their entire existence to owning us. People have dedicated their entire lives to owning you as property. Slavery. And the only slave that you should belong to is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm not a slave to anyone or anything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you get that in your mind at a young age right now, you become a very dangerous person later on in your life. Why? Why? Because nobody can own you. No one will own you. No one will be able to own you. And people will label you as being selfish. People will label you as being arrogant. People will label you as being all types of things. But you know what? The one thing they can't say about you is that you are a slave belonging to them. You can call me whatever you want to call me. You can call me whatever you want to call me. But the one thing you cannot call me is your slave. That's the one thing you can't call me. And that's the one thing that if you could call me that, all of the other descriptions would disappear. If I was your slave, Nothing else would matter. But the fact that you can't own me, now I'm a liar, I'm arrogant, I'm self-absorbed, I'm this, I'm that. You're going to call me every name in the book, just as they call Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam every name in the book. They called him a liar, they called him a magician, they called him a soothsayer. They even denied that he was a prophet.
Mad poet.
وَيَقُولُ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَسْتَ مُرْسَلًا. And those who disbelieve say, you are not a prophet. Right? They called him every name in the book. People say today, oh, you're not Salafi. That's okay. They said the Prophet ﷺ wasn't a prophet. And they only say that about you because we fear what we don't understand and we hate what we can't conquer. I gave that to you guys before. We fear what we don't understand and we hate what we can't conquer. Because I can't conquer you, I hate you. So I'm going to call you all types of names to try to destroy your honor, destroy your reputation, simply because I cannot own you. You follow me? We are afraid of what we don't understand, and we hate what we can't conquer. Real talk. Facts. All right? So this is important to understand in this day and time because codependency is the new idolatry. Most of the challenges that we are confronted with in our personal lives today revolve around people or things who have dedicated their entire existence to owning us, or the most important parts of us, our heart and our soul. We live in a very narcissistic climate where many are absorbed with self-aggrandizing visions of grandeur, which they oftentimes superimpose on others they come in contact with. Right? People have a God complex. They want to control you. Right? You're friends with one person, and then someone comes along and say, why are you friends with them? You're supposed to be friends with me. So what that means now is I'm supposed to relinquish my friendship to this person just to be your friend. You're trying to control me. My life doesn't work like that. I'm friends with the people that I want to be friends with, and you don't control that. You follow me? You don't control who I'm friends with. Obviously, if this is your parents telling you you shouldn't be friends with this person or friends with that one because they're bad company, that's something different. But if someone wants you all to themselves, right? And as teenagers, you guys go through this more than anyone, right? You're friends with one person. This is especially true with girls, right? Because they're very territorial, right? So when a girl is friends with another girl, she's not allowed to be friends with the enemies of her friend, right? If you're friends with this person, every person that is an enemy to that person now has to become your enemy. You're not allowed to be okay or to be neutral with them because they are enemies of your friend. This is ownership. You follow me? You see how the person tries to own you? It's like, oh, I seen you with such and such. It's like, okay, so what?
That's exactly what I said.
Right? So what? Well, I'm not cool with that person, or this person did this. Okay, well, they did that to you.
Not me.
They didn't do it to me. So now I'm supposed to break off my friendship with that person to appease you, to make you feel better?
It won't happen.
Nah, sorry. You don't own me. Right? You don't own me. Oh, then what happens as a consequence? Well, then I'm going to cut off my friendship with you. Then you weren't my friend to begin with. If you break off your friendship with me because of that, you were not my friend to begin with. Right? You wanted someone to placate your feelings. And the moment I did not want to placate your feelings anymore, now you show your true colors. And it's very good for you to know who your enemies are. When a person shows you who they are, believe them. When a person shows you who they are, believe them. They're telling you the truth. Don't make excuses for them. Believe every word they're telling you. Inshallah, we'll stop here and we'll continue next week. بإذن وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. So next week, inshallah, the class will probably be a little bit more fuller than it is now. The first week is usually very slow. Bring your books. You have to bring your booklets with you every class. Secondly, bring a highlighter with you and a pen with you. All right, so that you guys can take notes. If you want to be smart about it, what you can do is you can bring your cell phone with you and you can actually record the class. And then you can go back and listen to it again and then write your notes down at your own pace. But I still would like you to take notes in the class. Understand? All right. So we'll stop here, inshallah. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
First time being a high schooler.
Yeah.